This is the Prescott Preservation Commission meeting of June the 9th, 2017. Now, are you going to take the roll?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. The Chair hereby calls the Prescott Preservation Commission in order on the June 9th, 2017 public hearing. We'll go ahead and announce the members. Present today are Tony Teeters, Christy Hastings, Russ Buchanan, Michael Mirko, Robert Burford, and of course, Chairman Gary Edelbrock.
Thank you.
Potential staff members present: Kat Moody, Historic Preservation Specialist, George Worley, Planning Manager, and myself, Darla Eastman, recording. This is an open hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable and/or radio stations. Also may be rebroadcast. The number of commissioners members here today present are 6.
6.
And will require 4 votes for a majority.
4.
All parties wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hands and be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking, be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off any and all cell phones, electronic devices if you haven't already done so. Please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting. Thank you. And we'll introduce Kat Moody, Historic Preservation Specialist, for our next agenda item.
So the first agenda item will be approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
Have all of you had the opportunity to read the minutes? Is there anybody who would like to make a change? Then, Mr. Teeters, would you make a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes from the meeting of May 12, 2017.
Ms. Christie?
Can I please request everybody put their mic so that, just for the media broadcast, thank you.
Second.
Signify by raising your right hand if you vote to approve the minutes.
Aye.
Any negative votes? I don't see any. The minutes are approved 6-0.
The next agenda item, Kat Moody.
This is agenda item HP 17004, which is a request approval for replacement of windows at the Hacienda Hotel, 122 East Gurley Street. Almost exactly 2 years ago, this commission approved, let me zoom this out just a bit, approved replacement of guest room windows at the Hacienda Hotel. That request involved most of the guest rooms in the hotel for window replacement. And that work has been completed, yes. And this is the round 2 of window replacement for the Hacienda Hotel. So at this point, the request is to replace the windows that are outlined here in red, and I'm showing you the overview, and then we'll look at close-ups of these windows. So these windows involve the transom windows above the bar and restaurant area, as well as the transom above the lobby area here. And in addition, there are 2 banks of windows in the tower, and these are our guest rooms that were not addressed at the previous window replacement. So there's a block here, and then there's a block that's around the other face here, the east-facing face of this tower. And then the final window request here is this arched window above the entry door on the south side of the Hacienda. So let's take a look at these windows a little closer. So this is starting at the west end. So these are the transom windows here, 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 and then above the doorway here. These are all fixed windows, correct? Yes. And then these are above the next section of the restaurant bar. Again, these are transoms here and here. These transoms above here and then above this doorway. This group here. This is the final group on that side there. And then this depicts that arched window over the entryway. And then these are a close-up of the windows in the tower. So this is a bank here of 6 vertical windows. And then this is the east side, a view of the east side of that same tower group of windows. The proposal is to use windows that match the existing window openings and style. They will also match the windows that were used in the guest room. So I'm going to show you one of the cut sheets because they're all fairly similar. But this is a weather shield window. This is going to be a wood window in construction. It's going to be a pre-finished white painted interior, and then it will have an aluminum clad exterior, also pre-finished in white. So they should match directly with the window openings and style, and also match those windows previously replaced in the guest rooms. And we do have the window contractor here. So I've got Rick Lewis, and with that, I will turn it over to you all for questions or discussion.
Yeah, I had a question.
Uh-huh.
Do I recall that the doors were being replaced in the last round?
We did. What we reviewed is we had 2 items actually previously here. We approved window replacement initially. Then they came back for door and then the tile wainscoting.
Right.
You may remember this tile wainscoting.
Right.
And so there, in the last 2 years, we reviewed 2 previous items for the hotel. So they are slowly chipping away at some of the longstanding maintenance items in order to bring the hotel up to, and keep things looking fresh and have a functional waterproof building.
Great, thank you.
Did you want to say anything, Mr. Lewis? Please introduce yourself.
Well, Rick Lewis, I'm with Prescott Window and Door, that's my company.
And
And-
address.
Yeah, we work out of 6640 Intercal Way, which is the design center. I actually live in Prescott Valley, 1841 North Thimble Lane. The 3 doors that were replaced before were just the door slabs being replaced. None of the frames of the doors were replaced at all. And so right above those doors, we're planning on doing the same thing with the transoms. Just replace the transom. The frames are in good shape and paint should continue for a long time. However, the frames of the transoms above that, the ones that are outlined in rectangles up there on the screen, are dry rotted. And there's a copper roof that extends off from them, and at some point, the waterproofing along there wasn't done properly. And so we really can't save those frames. I mean, I guess we could fill them in with fiberglass, but that's kind of a temporary issue, and Michael, the owner, is definitely stepping up. So we will be replacing these, and we'll be using the masonry openings as our guide for sizing, and we'll match it on the outside for profile. The windows have different thickness grids. Some of them are 5/8, some are 7/8, some are 1 1/8 inch. We're going to try and match exactly that thickness. We won't be able to get the depth of profile. That's really not available today. We use simulated divided light to do this, which means that it's one piece of glass, bars between the glass, but then also bars on the surface. And that's the current best technique for doing this. So if you have any questions, I really came here just to answer your questions.
You mentioned the copper, that's staying.
We plan on it staying. It's really not part of our agreement to do anything with that, with Michael, but he's aware that it may have to get replaced as part of the process.
But it is going to stay, whether it's replaced.
It's going to stay copper one way or the other, yes. And we don't feel, I mean, we've inspected it pretty carefully. We think we can waterproof on top of it, and then that'll eliminate the problem that occurred before, where they left a gap, they put the copper up against it and didn't get a good seal to the wood. And so as we put these in, we're going to take that down and we'll be flashing over the top of the copper.
So right now, there's water infiltration between this copper roof down into and compromising these transoms?
No, not there, it's on the top.
It's on the
We don't have
top.
a clear picture of it.
Okay.
No, the water infiltration is at the bottom of the sill. Basically, when they put the copper on, they ran on top of the wood sill, and they didn't have an effective seal there, so the wood sill itself is rotted. These old windows are made with it's about 1.5 inch thick piece of wood at the bottom. It's shaped different ways, but that's essentially, we recreate that on the inside, but behind the alarm.
Are those the original windows?
We believe so.
Yes.
So 1927 forward,
They did pretty good.
they did pretty
That's
damn
really-
good.
That's one of the reasons I'm a fan of wood windows. They seem to hold up.
So that's a 90-year lifespan right there. Pretty good. So an item to note is that Gary mentioned that this building was constructed in 1927, and one of the remarkable things about this hotel coming to Prescott was that it was completely publicly funded. So the project was proposed and funds were raised by local Prescott residents in order to fund the building of this hotel, which cost $150,000 back in 1927. And they managed to construct the hotel in 10 months once they secured funding. And it was designed by Trost & Trost architecture firm, which did a lot of work in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and was a very highly revered architectural firm during the early 1900s.
Was not it the tallest building in Prescott at the time?
I don't know that it's taller than the Knights of Pythias. I'm not sure what the exact, they're kind of right at the same height. Perhaps with the towers, it was taller.
Yes, I was including the towers.
Yeah.
When you say publicly funded, was it it was open to public investors, or was it funded with
Donations.
tax money?
It was private citizens.
Oh, okay.
And bankers, mining operators, local businessmen, and residents.
And they were investors, is that right? Or
They weren't investors. It was
they just put up the money.
put up the money in order to improve Prescott and create this architectural, gem and have this grand hotel that would welcome visitors to the area.
Kat, are you aware of any other buildings like this that have been funded like that were just kind of grassroots?
Well, Carnegie Library was partially across the street, directly across the street. The Carnegie Library also received just resident public, it received partial funding through the Carnegie Foundation, but the
Monday
local town had to meet.
participate.
There was a, if you can raise half the money, we'll give you half the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were others, but it was really exceptional because it was going to be, rather than a library, which is obviously a public resource, and the hotel was kind of more of a somewhat private enterprise, but yeah.
Robert?
No, thank you. That's very interesting information. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote. Would somebody like to make the motion? Tony?
I make a motion that we approve,
It's HV 17-004.
HB 17-004. As submitted.
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. We'll call for the vote. Those in favor, raise your right hand, please.
Aye.
Aye.
There's no nays, so it's 6-0, so you're approved.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you for your time.
Squeaked by.
Kat, do you have anything further?
So on other items of note, last month we did discuss the potential of coming up with a policy for noticing of neighbors. And I just want to give you an update, I would expect next month I will have some potential guidelines or items for discussion regarding that to decide whether the commission wants to direct particular set of criteria that would trigger noticing of neighbors. So I think next month we'll have that on the agenda. Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you very much.
And then I am going down next week to the statewide Historic Preservation Conference to represent Prescott there. So that is being held in Oro Valley, north of Tucson. And so I will also have an update on the items from that conference at next month's meeting as well.
Well, thank you very much. Anything further?
Russ?
And we have we're scheduled to be hosting a meeting sometime soon.
We are in running with Scottsdale right now for next year's Historic Preservation Conference. And I think we have an edge over them because there have been several statewide conferences held in the Valley in the previous couple of years. Mesa had one, and then Phoenix hosted one, and we haven't had one up here in quite a few years. So I think we potentially have an edge, but some of that's determined by the hosting hotels and the rates they provide the conference and items such as that. So I should know fairly quickly. I may know in the weeks following the conference. So I'm definitely putting in a push to have the conference come back to Prescott in 2018. So,
Will you be making a presentation?
not this year. I did last year, but I'm not doing a presentation this year. So,
Are these still, the ones that are held not in Prescott, are they still, do they make it available so that maybe a commissioner could go still?
we have in the past sent myself and most often the chair of the commission. If the chair didn't want to go, we'd send one other commissioner. If it comes back to Prescott next year, generally because there are no travel costs, we try to open it up to the entire commission to be able to provide you with a registration so that you can attend the session since it's local. So if it does come back, then you all have that opportunity.
Well, it appears we've accomplished our goals, so with no further ado, we're going to sign off.